Check, 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 check. Good morning, guys. Let's continue on. Another reading, another part of the reading. I think this is video 2. Abraham Accords Peace Agreement, Treaty of Peace, Diplomatic Relations, and Full Normalization between the United Arab Emirates and the State of Israel. The Treaty of Peace, Diplomatic Relations, and Full Normalization. Normalization, you're going to constantly hear that word, or we did in the first video. You constantly hear normalize. Make it normal that we get along. These two different religions that have, in history have beefed it, have went at it. So, by expressing deep appreciation to the United States for its profound contribution to this historic achievement, have agreed as follows. Number 1, establish of peace, diplomatic relations, and normalization. Peace, diplomatic relations, and full normalization of bilateral ties are hereby established between the United Arab Emirates and the State of Israel. Number 2, general principles. The parties shall be guided in their relations by the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations and the principles of international law governing relations among states. In particular, they shall recognize and respect each other's sovereignty and right to live in peace and security. Develop friendly relations of cooperation between them and their peoples, and settle all disputes between them by peaceful means. Number 3, establish of embassies. The parties shall exchange resident ambassadors as soon as practicable after the signing of this treaty, and shall conduct diplomatic and consular relations in accordance with the applicable rules of international law. Number 4, peace and stability. The parties shall attach profound importance to mutual understanding, cooperation, and coordination between them in the spheres of peace and stability. To cooperate with each other, to coordinate, meaning work together, and to understand between them in the peace, in the spheres of peace and stability as a fundamental pillar of their relations and as a means for enhancing those spheres in the Middle East as a whole. They undertake to take the necessary steps to prevent any terrorist or hostile activities against each other on or from their respective territories. As well as deny any support for such activities abroad or allowing such support on or from their respective territories, recognizing the new era of peace and friendly relations between them, as well as the centrality of stability to the well-being of the respective peoples and of the region. The parties undertake to consider and discuss these matters regularly and to conclude detailed agreements and arrangements on coordination and cooperation. It's funny because when I printed this out, some words are thrown off for some reason. Even the signatures on here, the famous Donald Trump signature who signed this, is blurred out. Just like security, I guess. So number 5, which kind of makes me think they know that I printed it out. So number 5, cooperation and agreements in other spheres. As an integral part of their commitment to peace, prosperity, diplomatic and friendly relations, cooperation, and full normalization, the parties shall work to advance the cause of peace, stability, and prosperity throughout the Middle East, and to unlock the great potential of their countries and of the region. For such purposes, the parties shall conclude bilateral agreements, like going both ways, mutual agreement, in the following spheres as the earliest practicable date, as well as in other spheres of mutual interest as may be agreed. We have finance and investment. It's funny, that's the first one. I'm just saying, they're doing business. The United Arab Emirates, these are rich people. These are sheiks. These are the sheiks. This is Saudi. No, that's not Saudi Arabia. This is Abu Dhabi. I don't know if it's Dubai, but I know it's Abu Dhabi. These are rich sheiks, rich from oil. So again, these people's interest is wealth, right? They live good lives. They're not Iran. You could say there's the wealth there, but it's just a different part of the world. It's the same part of the world. I don't know. I don't know everything. I'm just I know that United Arab Emirates are sheiks, really wealthy, billions of dollars, filthy rich. And so it's funny. The first one, so cooperation and agreements in other spheres. So these other spheres are finance and investment, civil aviation, visas and consular services, innovation, trade and economic relations, healthcare, science, technology, and peaceful uses of outer space, tourism, culture and sport, energy, environment, education, maritime arrangements, telecommunications and post, agriculture and food security, water, legal cooperation. Any such agreements concluded before the entry into force of this treaty shall enter into effect with the treaty into force of this treaty, unless otherwise stipulated therein. Agreed principles for cooperation in specific spheres are annexed to this treaty and form an integral part thereof. Number 6, mutual understanding and coexistence. The parties undertake to foster mutual understanding, respect, coexistence, and a culture of peace between their societies in the spirit of their common ancestor Abraham, and the new era of peace and friendly relations, ushered in by this treaty, including by cultivating people-to-people programs, interfaith dialogue, and cultural, academic, youth, scientific, and other exchanges between their peoples. I find that Abraham thing to be fascinating. Like they're using Abraham, so it's saying between the societies and the spirit of their common ancestor Abraham. There's some there's some people who don't really believe there's this anybody's different than anybody. Abraham was some chosen one by God, supposedly by the religious texts of Judaism, Christianity, even Islam. They believe in this Abrahamic religion. It's like family fighting, really. And I don't know, just kind of could seem like an excuse, but it's also, I don't know, trying to find common ground, trying to make the world better. I guess in a sense by working together. That it kind of does it just make only the rich better for them? I don't know. The argument is how we create opportunity and jobs, and we allow another part of the world to have sort of an economy that people could buy and sell and live. And so they shall conclude and implement the necessary visa and consular services agreements and arrangements so as to facilitate efficient and secure travel for the respective nationals to the territory of each other. The parties shall work together to counter extremism, which promotes hatred and division, and terrorism and its justifications, including by preventing radicalization and recruitment, and by combating incitement and discrimination. They shall work towards establishing a high-level joint forum for peace and coexistence dedicated to advancing these goals. Number 7, strategic agenda for the Middle East. Further to the Abraham Accords, the parties stand ready to join with the United States to develop and launch a strategic agenda for the Middle East in order to expand regional diplomatic, trade, stability, and other cooperation. They are committed to work together and with the United States and others as appropriate in order to advance the cause of peace, stability, and prosperity in the relations between them and for the Middle East as a whole, including by seeking to advance regional security and stability, pursue regional economic opportunities, promote a culture of peace across the region, and consider joint aid and development programs. Number 8, other rights and obligations. This treaty does not affect and shall not be interpreted as affecting in any way the rights and obligations of the parties under the Charter of the United Nations. The parties shall take all necessary measures for the application in their bilateral relations of the provisions of the multilateral conventions of which they are both parties, including the submission of appropriate notification to the depositories of such conventions. Number 9, respect for obligation. Number 9, respect for obligation. The parties undertake to fulfill in good faith their obligations under this treaty without regard to action or inaction of any other party and independently of any instrument inconsistent with this treaty For the purposes of this paragraph, each party represents to the other that in its opinion and interpretation, there was no inconsistency between their existing treaty obligations and this treaty. The parties undertake not to enter into any obligation in conflict with this treaty, subject to the Article 103 of the Charter of the United Nations. In the event of a conflict between the obligations of the parties under the present treaty and any of their obligations, the obligations under this treaty shall be binding and implemented. The parties further undertake to adopt any legislation or other internal legal procedure necessary in order to implement this treaty and to repeal any national legislation or official publication inconsistent with this treaty. Ratification and entry into force. That's number 10. Right here didn't print out. Ratification and entry into force. This treaty shall be ratified by both parties as soon as practicable in conformity with the respective national procedures and will enter into force following the exchange of instruments of ratification. Number 11, settlement of disputes. Disputes arising out of the application or interpretation of this treaty shall be resolved by negotiation. Any such dispute which cannot be settled by negotiation may be referred to conciliation or arbitration, subject to the agreements of the parties. May be referred to conciliation or arbitration, subject to the agreements of the parties. Number 12, registration. This treaty shall be transmitted to the Secretary General of the United Nations for registration in accordance, or this treaty shall be transmitted to the Secretary General of the United Nations for registration in accordance with the provisions of Article 102 of the Charter of the United Nations. So this was done at Washington, D.C. this day Elul, 26, 5780, Muharram 27th, 1442, which corresponds to the 15th of September, 2020, in the Hebrew, Arabic, and English languages, all texts being equally authentic. In case of divergence of interpretation, the English text shall prevail. For the state of Israel, what was I say? H.E. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister. For the United Arab Emirates, if H.H. Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Witnessed by H.E. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Oh, they do have it right here. So, then we have the annex. Let's keep going. We'll keep going. Yeah, this thing printed all weird. We have the annex. Just see how this goes. Civil aviation, tourism, finance. Yeah, we'll just read the annex right here. Pursuant to Article 5. I guess I use my phone. Don't want to, but. So the annex. Pursuant of let's see. Actually, guys, we'll just we'll stop this video. We'll just do another part. Peace.